Lake Tahoe still looks pristine. The water still runs clear enough to see 20 meters down. The shoreline still draws millions of visitors every summer, who assume they are standing at the edge of one of the last clean alpine lakes left in America. But at 1,600 feet, remotely operated vehicles are now finding corroded industrial barrels leaking lead, mercury, and arsenic, and human remains preserved in near-freezing water for decades. Lake Tahoe is dying, and 500,000 people depend on it for water they assume will always be safe. That visible clarity is not health. It is a mask. The lake looks clean because the worst contamination sits too deep to challenge the myth. But through a forensic lens, depth is not protection anymore. It is a storage vault that is finally being opened. And the deeper part is this. What looks like alpine purity from the surface is really a water body whose deepest basins have been used as a disposal site since the 1950s. And the same drought conditions that dropped the waterline 9 feet in 2024 are the conditions that let the survey happen. The clarity you see at the surface tells you nothing about what is accumulating at the bottom. By the end of this case file, you will understand exactly how 500,000 people get cut off, and why the surface gives you no warning before it does. We view Lake Tahoe as a pristine mountain lake. Visitors see it as the last alpine jewel. Conservationists see it as a fragile ecosystem worth protecting. But through a forensic lens, Lake Tahoe is not a pristine system. It is a drinking water source sitting on top of a deep water contamination zone that has been physically shielded from discovery by its own depth for 70 years. To understand how a lake this famous hides contamination this severe, we have to start with the first concept: depth as a physical barrier. Look at the lake from shore. The water is so clear that you can see rocks on the bottom in the shallows. That clarity extends down to about 70 feet. Below that, the light fades. At 1,600 feet, the lake reaches pressures of 700 pounds per square inch, temperatures locked at 39 degrees Fahrenheit, and an oxygen-poor environment where normal decomposition almost stops. This is not a detail. This is the mechanism that made Lake Tahoe useful as a disposal site. In the 1950s, industrial operators used barges to haul drums of chemical waste to the deepest basins and drop them overboard. The assumption was simple: no one would ever reach the bottom. Recreational divers cannot safely descend past 200 feet. Commercial divers hit their limits well before 500. The lake floor was effectively unreachable, and anything that sank there would stay hidden. For decades, that assumption held. The lake's famous clarity became part of its brand. Tourists saw blue water. Scientists measured surface quality. No one looked at what was sitting a quarter-mile below the surface. But in 2024, drought conditions dropped the waterline 9 feet. That drop did not expose the barrels directly, but it triggered renewed scientific interest in surveying the deep basins. Remotely operated vehicles, equipped with high-definition cameras and advanced lighting systems, descended to the lake floor and documented what had been there all along. Hundreds of industrial drums, many of them visibly corroded, some of them leaking. The same vehicles also found preserved human remains, linked to disappearances that had never been resolved. Depth had acted as a vault. Now the vault was being opened. And the harder part is this: the contamination is not theoretical. The barrels contain lead, mercury, and arsenic. These are persistent heavy metals. They do not break down. They do not wash away. In the cold, high-pressure environment at the lake bottom, the drums have corroded slowly. But they have corroded. When a drum fails, its contents leak into the surrounding sediment. That sediment sits in the deep basin, where water movement is minimal. The contaminants do not disperse quickly. They accumulate. They bind to silt. They enter the food chain through deep water microorganisms. And because the lake is a drinking water source for 500,000 people across the Tahoe Basin and downstream communities, any contamination at depth is not just an environmental issue. It is a public health threshold. The second concept is preservation through cold storage. The lake bottom is not just deep, it is a refrigerator. At 39 degrees, with almost no oxygen and no sunlight, the conditions are ideal for preserving anything that sinks. Human remains found at depth are often in a state called adipocere formation, where body fat turns into a waxy, soap-like substance that resists decay. Clothing, personal items, and DNA evidence remain intact for decades. The same principle applies to industrial waste. In a warm, oxygen-rich environment, metal drums would corrode faster and organic contaminants would break down through bacterial action. But at the bottom of Lake Tahoe, time effectively stands still. A barrel dumped in 1955 looks almost the same in 2024. The lake has been protecting evidence of its own contamination for 70 years. And the system shows that this preservation is not neutral. Every year that a leaking barrel sits on the lake floor is another year of slow contamination. The heavy metals do not disappear. They do not dilute into harmlessness. They accumulate in the sediment, and they move up the food chain. Tahoe is famous for its clarity, but clarity measures suspended particles, not dissolved toxins. You can have water that looks perfectly clean and still carries mercury concentrations high enough to trigger fish consumption advisories. The surface tells you nothing about what is dissolving at depth. The third concept is the myth of alpine purity. Lake Tahoe has been sold as one of the last truly clean lakes in America. That image is central to its tourism economy, its conservation funding, and its regulatory protection. The myth is not entirely false. The lake is clearer than most. It is colder than most. It is more carefully monitored than most. But the myth depends on the assumption that what you see from shore is what the lake actually is. And that assumption breaks down the moment you understand that the lake has a hidden basement. The deep basins are not part of the tourist experience. They are not visible from overlooks. They are not accessible to swimmers or boaters. For most of the lake's history, they were not even accessible to scientists. That invisibility allowed the lake to function as two systems at once: a pristine surface layer that supported the brand, and a deep contamination zone that no one talked about because no one could see it. The 1950s dumping was not a secret. It was systematic. Industrial operators knew where the deepest water was. They used barges. They dropped waste in organized disposal runs. The practice was legal at the time, or at least not actively policed. The assumption was that depth equaled safety. Out of sight, out of mind, and permanently out of reach. But the technology changed. Remotely operated vehicles can now operate at pressures that would crush a human diver. High-definition cameras can document the lake floor in detail. Sonar mapping can identify anomalies. The physical barrier that protected the contamination for 70 years is no longer a barrier. The lake is being forced to reveal what it has been hiding. And the loss here is not just environmental. It is reputational. Tahoe's brand as a pristine alpine lake is worth billions of dollars in tourism revenue and property values. Every new revelation about deep water contamination challenges that brand. Every news story about leaking barrels or human remains adds another crack to the myth. The lake is not dead yet, but the image of the lake as untouchable and pure is already dying. The fourth concept is accumulation without dispersion. Most contamination in moving water eventually dilutes or washes downstream. Rivers flush, coastal currents disperse. But Lake Tahoe is a closed basin. Water flows in, but it flows out slowly. The lake has a residence time of about 650 years, meaning that a drop of water that enters the lake today will, on average, stay in the system for over 6 centuries before it leaves. That slow turnover means that anything that enters the lake stays in the lake, and anything that sinks to the bottom stays on the bottom. The deep basins are low-energy environments. There are no strong currents. There is no wave action. Sediment settles and stays settled. When a barrel leaks, the contaminants do not spread evenly through the water column. They sink into the silt. They bind to particles. They stay concentrated in the area where the barrel failed. Over time, those localized contamination zones grow. More barrels corrode. More contaminants leak. The sediment layer becomes a reservoir of dissolved heavy metals. And because the lake is so deep and so cold, there is no natural mechanism to flush that contamination out. It just accumulates. The system also shows that this is not a problem that fixes itself. If dumping stopped tomorrow, the contamination would still be there. The barrels would still corrode. The sediment would still hold lead, mercury, and arsenic. The only way to address the contamination is active remediation, sending remotely operated vehicles down to retrieve the barrels, dredging the contaminated sediment, or capping the contamination zones with clean material. All of those options are expensive, technically difficult, and politically complicated. And none of them change the fact that the contamination is already there. The lake has been quietly storing industrial waste for 70 years. That storage is now leaking. And the system that was supposed to keep the contamination hidden is the same system that is now making it impossible to remove. The fifth concept is what to watch. You, the viewer, should watch for 3 things. First, watch for changes in fish consumption advisories. Mercury accumulates in fish tissue. If deep water contamination is moving up the food chain, the first measurable sign will be higher mercury levels in Tahoe trout and kokanee salmon. Those advisories already exist in some California lakes. If they appear at Tahoe, that is not a projection. That is confirmation that the contamination is active. Second, watch for drinking water test results. The 500,000 people who depend on Tahoe for drinking water are served by intake systems that draw from mid-depth, not from the surface, and not from the deep basins. But if contamination spreads, or if drought conditions force utilities to draw from deeper water, those intakes could pull in water that has been in contact with contaminated sediment. Lead, mercury, and arsenic are all regulated under the Safe Drinking Water Act. If test results start showing exceedances, that is the system crossing a threshold. Third, watch for remediation announcements. If state or federal agencies begin planning barrel retrieval operations, that is an acknowledgement that the contamination is severe enough to justify the cost and risk of deep water intervention. Those operations are not routine. They require specialized equipment, environmental impact reviews, and significant funding. If they happen, it means the contamination is no longer something that can be ignored. And the emotional truth here is this: the lake still looks beautiful. The water is still clear. The mountains are still reflected on the surface. Tourists still come. Property values are still high. But underneath that surface, the system is quietly breaking. The barrels are corroding. The sediment is accumulating toxins. The myth of purity is thinning. And the people who depend on this water for drinking, for recreation, for economic survival, are trusting a surface image that no longer matches the reality at depth. So here is the answer to the question from the beginning. This is how 500,000 people get cut off. Contamination moves from corroded barrels into sediment, from sediment into deep water, from deep water into the intake zones that supply drinking water systems, and from those systems into homes, schools, and businesses that assume Tahoe water is safe. Because Tahoe has always been safe. That is not a projection. That is the system working exactly as it is currently built. Lake Tahoe is not dead yet. But that is the point. The contamination has been there for 70 years. The lake has looked pristine for 70 years. The two facts coexisted because depth hid the second fact from view. Now the depth is being surveyed. The barrels are being documented. The remains are being recovered. And the 500,000 people who depend on this water do not see the mechanism. They see the surface. Now you do.